Welcome back to the Break Room, a workforce experience, the podcast where we step away from the noise and have real conversations about the people, partnerships, and strategies shaping today's workforce. I'm Johnny Rodriguez with Workforce, and today's conversation is one I've been looking forward to because it sits right in the intersection of business growth, workforce development, and inclusion. And joining me is my friend Omar Cuevas, Senior Vice President of Investor and Corporate Relations at the Grand Rapids Chamber. Omar is a first generation immigrant, a national leader within the Chamber community, and someone who has spent his career helping grow businesses grow while creating access and opportunity for people across the West Michigan Grand Rapids region. Omar, welcome to the Break Room. We're glad you're here.
Johnny, I'm excited to be here, man. Thank you so much for thinking of me to invite me to your podcast.
Of course, and I know you wanted to be here in person, but this Arctic blast, we're going to keep you inside and go virtual, but I appreciate it. So we got 15 minutes. It's a 15-minute break for us. So we shoot a few questions out there, but before we get into your work, we're really excited about learning just a little bit more about you. So we'd love to hear maybe your journey and a little bit of your story that you're comfortable sharing.
Absolutely. Yesterday was my grandmother's 93rd birthday. And thankfully, thank God, she's still with us. But I think it's a good opportunity to, in a certain way, honor our ancestors and honor those that came before us. And it was, my grandparents who made a decision to emigrate to this wonderful country. And I remember I was 3 years old, a little bit past 3 years old. The stories that I get from my family is that, they brought me here as a toddler, and I was born in Mexico, and we lived on a border town in Southern California. So I'm a product of public schools. Grew up in Barrio Logan, and next to Chicano Park in San Diego, California. And I'm happy to say I feel honored to say that I am the son, I am the grandson to individuals who demonstrated not only resilience, hard work ethic, but also servant leadership in the way that they lived, and that's what I brought to my work history. Quite frankly, I'll tell you, Johnny, I would have never thought that I would have had the path that I have and where I'm at right now. And so I feel blessed to say that I get to be part of this wonderful organization. Definitely didn't have a linear, path that many individuals do, but I am grateful. God's been good to me, and today, I am a father, along with my wife, with 7 kids combined, and ages, the age range is wild. But what I can tell you is I do the things that I do because I'm motivated to be the best person I can be at home. And that's what drives me, as well as having that servant leadership mentality that I've learned from my family, making sure that I'm serving others and that I want to continue to honor them by doing so.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. And your story is there's a lot of people with that story in our communities, and maybe not the levels that you've been able to reach, but the history and the barriers that you've had to overcome. So we highlight you, we champion you, man, and we want to elevate you. So thank you. You worn a lot of hats in your different careers and in industries. As you mentioned, I think another great lesson was success is not always linear, and more often than not, especially for Latinos, it can be not that way. So, but as a lender, a chamber leader that you find yourself in, national board member, how have those experiences influenced the way you approach business growth and community impact today?
Thanks for referencing, because I was a banker for many years. And when I look back at my time, in banking, I would never qualify or be able to determine my success based on the number of loans or deposits that I brought or how many new accounts we opened. The way I saw, success looking back was in the lives I was able to touch, the individuals that I was able to assist, the entrepreneurs whose dreams I was able to support. And that is how I reflect during my time as a banker. I knew that access to capital was one of those levers that our community, if they're able to access it, is able to be transformational.
Wow.
So even now, after being out of the banking industry close to a decade, after spending almost 2 decades in banking, I still have people in the community that said, "Oh, look, that's the person who helped me with my first business loan, or that's the person who help us buy our first house. And look, my kid is now going to college right now, and that is what continues to provide me that personal satisfaction."
Yeah.
Uh,
Awesome.
and now in the chamber industry, I think I can scale that work now in hyper focus, and what I see as one of those wealth creation tools that is entrepreneurship, and how I can play a role in supporting not only all small businesses, but specifically those that come from historically marginalized communities. Mi gente, nuestra comunidad. What's my role, right? Even though we're an organization that's been around for 138 years, um, I'm trying to think, what's Omar's role? How can I make a difference in that work around me? Obviously, it's never done alone because I work with some passionate individuals. But what I do is I provide my perspective, my lens, my lived experience, and kind of challenge the thought, that sometimes that, if we want different results, we got to work differently. And that means sometimes thinking out in left field a little bit of ideas. And so far, it's been almost a decade of working in the chamber industry, and I love it.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, you answered my next question of how you actually grow and stay competitive. So that you being in that spot is so important to a lot of people in the community. And so that's something that we're grateful you're there and with that vision, and also the leadership at the chamber to allow its team members to think outside the box and say, that's the vision. We have to solve problems, and you have to be so proactive with that and future focused. You're talking to business leaders, investors, executives every day. What are you hearing right now when it comes to talent challenges and workforce concerns?
Well, I will tell you this right now. The employers I get to talk to, they're looking for people that, there's job openings. We have a demand for people here in West Michigan, and so what that means is that I've seen my job at helping them identify sometimes the overlooked talent pools that they never really explore. Right? If you are used to just posting on Indeed or LinkedIn, then chances are you're going to continue to see the same talent pools as every other employer. But there are other talent pools, refugees, new Americans that call West Michigan home, who come with certifications, foreign degrees, world perspectives, different views that help provide a global perspective to the workforce here in West Michigan. And knowing that we have more than 130 companies that have a global presence headquartered here in West Michigan, the talent, now we have to look at it from a different perspective. That said, it's not just about attracting talent. It's about how do you create workplaces where people want to stay, where they want to be there for a decade, for 2 decades. And sometimes we don't see that a lot. And so that goes back to what kind of culture are you creating, co-creating with your team so that they feel like they belong. This is a business strategy. This isn't talking about social justice or anything. This is talking about numbers. Having a strong team makes it a productive team. Having an engaged team makes it a team that can go through any type of economic uncertainty. I reflect on one of my favorite corporate leadership books, The Five Dysfunctions of a Team, and in the prologue, the author Lencioni mentioned something to the regards of if every individual on the team is on the same boat, rowing the same direction, there's no competition or industry that they cannot lead in. And so I think that's something that I continue to see as well. Not only helping employers address their talent needs because there are talent needs, but also ensuring that they are creating spaces where they can keep talent.
Yeah, well said. It's not just a social issue; it's an economic business, and it makes perfect business sense. Uh, an area you recently led the chamber's welcome work with new Americans through the Kent County Welcome Plan. Um, why is immigrant and refugee inclusion? Uh, Dive into that a little bit deeper, because here at Workforce, we see ourselves as a bridge to untapped talent. People come to work for us, we walk alongside them and help them access that. But from your perspective, what potential do immigrants and refugees bring to the workforce that employers often overlook?
And I think where we were able to lean in is being a business organization. We are the Grand Rapids Chamber is the largest business organization in West Michigan. We have more than 3,000 employers that are part of our organization. And the lens that I was able to bring was that of a business organization, not to in any way forget about the human element, but to be able to speak to employers and what makes sense to them sometimes. And that is from a bottom line perspective. You have people, there are talent pools. What can you do to be able to create these pipelines, these bridges to address your needs? And so the chamber was able to provide that economic perspective by working with a national organization to create what we call the economic impact report of new Americans in Kent County. And there was one created in Ottawa County as well. Actually, a couple of years ago, we released an updated report. And what we find is that new Americans and refugees are a force for good, an economic force for good for our region. There were more than 2,600 manufacturing jobs that were retained in West Michigan because of our immigrant community and our refugee community in our counties. And when I see the spending power, the impact to GDP, the social services that are funded in the hundreds of millions of dollars by this community, then Johnny, the numbers don't lie. Immigrants and refugees have a positive impact in our community. So when we bring that to employers, they're no longer looking at these other fallacies or misconceptions. They're looking at it, well, what can I do to tap into this talent? You don't know how many times I've talked to individuals that are working in manufacturing, but back home they were engineers. They're working in low entry level jobs in healthcare systems, but back home they had a professional degree. I've met small business entrepreneurs that have a pastry business, but back home they had an orthodontics office for 25 years. And so to me, I feel like that challenge of saying, what is my role, and not that I can do a lot by myself, but what can I do to influence the conversation to say, employers, look at who's working for you, take an interest in identifying their skill sets, identifying their background, their certifications, their foreign degrees. Sometimes we look at English literacy. Sometimes we see someone with an accent and say, this is where they belong at the bottom of the rung because they might understand the language. But if you bother to partner with organizations like the Literacy Center of West Michigan, for example, that does at-work literacy programs and focus on those individuals that you find out, wow, they have this degree. They were accountants. They were engineers, they were project managers back home, and now you're able to lean on that expertise and then you help them with that superpower that is English literacy. Man, you have an employee that has so much more potential. They're going to be loyal to that employer, and you're going to see your productivity increase significantly.
Yeah, well said. And this is talent and roles that are needed right here in this community. Maybe not all of the roles can be done with like a credit equivalency kind of program, but from the engineering, accounting, all these roles are needed, and they have the worldview. And yeah, what you just said, that superpower of being able to, once you learn English, you got the Spanish and be able to play in different cultures and communities. I appreciate your leadership as well, because I know that you have a strong belief in partnership, and I hear you say, I can't do it alone, and anything great doesn't get done alone, and we know that as leaders. So what would how does the Grand Rapids Chamber, maybe workforce, complement each other when it comes to building a stronger regional workforce, uh, other partnerships? What does that look like to build that stronger regional workforce?
Johnny, one of the things that we're starting to say more and more at the chamber is that at the chamber, you're never alone. You're never alone at the chamber. We are an institution in this community. And so when you think of the Grand Rapids Chamber, sometimes people imagine just suits and smiles, just imagine networking events. But when you open up the curtain a little bit, what we are conveners and we are connectors. We bring people together. Those that are looking for opportunities with those who have opportunities. Those that have a need in certain industries, and then we're able to find the other missing piece of the puzzle. We're also trusted sources of information. Businesses come to us because they know they're going to get information that's actionable, that's trustworthy, that they can take back to their business, take back to their quarterly leadership sessions, and create those next quarterly goals based on that. We're also catalysts for change in the community. We get things done. If you're talking about housing issues, homelessness issues, childcare, look at some of the transformational projects that are happening here in Grand Rapids with the amphitheater and the soccer stadium. What you don't see is the name of the chamber, and that's fine. But who was behind getting that hotel motel tax passed was our colleagues, were my colleagues on our government affairs team that are relentless advocates. We are all relentless advocates for business. Our members see us as champions for business, as someone who they can pick up the phone and know that we're going to be able to help them in a timely manner.
You're never alone.
You're never alone at the chamber.
All right, so let's wrap it up here in this break. Got a few more questions here. What excites you the most about the future of West Michigan's economy?
I was asked a question earlier at a strategic planning meeting. It's like, Omar, what are you going to say no to this year? And I thought that was, it was very a pensive moment for me. And I said, obviously we have a business development strategy ourselves as a chamber. We want to grow. We want to help more businesses. And so what I shared was, I'm going to say no to the excuse that economic uncertainty, could be excuse for why we don't meet goals. Because what we have found is no matter at what phase, where this country is in, the chamber has played a role to support businesses. And so what that challenges me to think is like, how do I ensure that my team has at the top of their mind, at their fingertips, information that says, this is how we can help your business today. So quite frankly, I am excited at what 2026 can bring us. Now, I'm talking from a certain perspective, from a more personal perspective. Quite candidly, Johnny, I'm also concerned, right? I'm also concerned with the rhetoric that exists right now. I'm concerned that I feel like I got to carry my passport everywhere with me. And although that is very somber, perspective, that's my reality right now. That's the space that I live in right now. And I feel like, we have to look forward and figure out collectively how we address some of these issues. And so that's like the good and bad of what my personal forecast is for this year. We have to celebrate the small wins. We have to continue to challenge ourselves to be authentic, to not have to hide who we are. Yo soy Omar Cuevas. I was Omar Cuevas yesterday. I'm going to continue to be. And even though I may have to step into some spaces where I'm the only one that looks like me, gosh darn it, that's the way that I can break ground for others, and I'm going to do so, even if it's a little uncomfortable sometimes.
Yeah, love it. Thank you for sharing that. For anyone listening who wants to engage with you or the Grand Rapids Chamber or initiatives like Welcome Work, 2026, the events, networking, what's the best way to get connected, be with you or the Grand Rapids Chamber?
Well, thanks so much for this opportunity to be able to share that. They can get a hold of me in my email, Omar, OMAR, @grandrapids.org. Hopefully you can put that link in there. You can look me up on LinkedIn, Facebook. Hey, I'll give you my cell phone number, Johnny, because I'm many business owners, entrepreneurs have my cell phone. They call me, and I love it. It's 616-856-1330. We're here to serve. I remember I told you earlier about like the honor I want to give my grandparents, my mom, is that servant leadership. And I feel like the way I lead is by serving others. And so I can't do that unless I have an individual say, hey, Omar, I need help with this. And so challenge me.
Yeah.
Hit me up.
I did. And I asked you to join our podcast and you said yes. So, but yeah, we will definitely get your information out there. Thank you again for your leadership and want to honor you in your role and the work that it takes to get there. But the fact that you're focused on everyone, how do you best impact and create pathways for all, and reminding us that it's about unlocking potential, strengthening businesses, and building communities where all of us can thrive. So if any of that has resonated with you, definitely get in connection with Omar, and then with workforce as well. Again, we see ourselves as a bridge for talent to access, and what Omar was mentioning in my career, I've consistently learned of HR professionals or departments or executives that really struggle to tap into that untapped potential, and we can be positioned as experts in that and support you that way as well.
Johnny, I do want to put a plug in for you because I've heard from some employers how you're able to address some of their talent needs. Chamber members tell us all sorts of stuff, and I'm so happy to share with you that I've heard of some of our members that say, oh yeah, right now Workforce is helping us with filling this need, and so thanks for doing that.
That's awesome. Yeah, praise God, man. Yeah, and we have a mindset of serving, and that's why we do what we do. So we align there. So thank you. Yeah, so we will we'll follow up with episode 5 here in February. But Omar, thank you again for your time. This has been The Break Room, a workforce experience, and thank you for listening. We'll see you next month.